Hi, let's solve this maximum average subarray 1 sum from Leetcode. So, if you look at the question, they've given us a, a nums array and then they've given us a value k. So, what we have to do here is to check. We need to check all the possible subarrays in the given nums, and then we have to return the average of that subarray, which has the maximum, which gives you the maximum average. So for example, in this nums, we have uh, three subarrays which have the length of 4. For example, the first subarray which has the length of 4 in this nums is this one. This is the first subarray, and then you calculate the average and just store it, and then you go to the next subarray which starts from here, and then uh, and it ends here at the element 50, and then you calculate that average, and then you compare it with the previous average of the subarray, which was this, and then uh, retain whichever one is the maximum one, and then this is the final subarray that we have, which has the length of 4. So you also calculate this average of this subarray, and then if it is greater than the previous maximum, then you return this, or otherwise you return the previous one. So that is the idea. So if you've seen my previous videos, I've uploaded about sliding window, and this particular question comes under the uh, sliding window fixed sliding window. So it is fixed because we don't have to move our left pointer from its position to the or we don't have to increment the left uh, when the right is at a constant position. For example, in previous problems which involve sliding window, we did a variable length sliding window, which means the right iterates and it stops for the left to catch up. So but here we can just increment left and right at the same time. For example, uh, let's take we can solve this issue using two different approaches. I am doing it using two pointers, which is left and right. I'll explain you the other approach after this. So let's take the left variable 0 and initialize it to 0, and then we'll iterate through the nums using the right. So once you iterate, what we have to do now is to calculate the sum to find the average. Let's take the variable sum and then add nums of right to it. So let's initialize the variable sum as well. So now we are supposed to calculate the average of the nums, right? Average of the elements, right? But what we can do here is not calculate the average, but just the sum, because the window size is fixed. For example, all the subarrays that we were talking about have the same number of elements. So basically the denominator will be the same. It's not a coding approach, but it's a mathematical approach. The subarray that has the maximum average will also have the subarray which has the maximum sum. So I'm not going to calculate the average here, but just the sum. So, but we have to retain the sum of the subarray when it has the length which is equal to k. So I'll check the condition if right minus left plus 1 equal to k. So this is a condition we need to check for to see to see if the window is valid, basically. So here the window will be valid when the length would be equal to k, which is 4 in this case. So if the window is valid, we will retain the we'll calculate the sum. I mean, we did calculate here, right? So we will store it in a max sum variable, which I will again initialize here. So the max sum will retain the maximum of max sum and the sum. Yeah, so we retained it, and now we have to drop the leftmost element, which is sum minus before we increment the left, we have to also decrement the sum, the left element from the sum. So, and then we increment left. So now we return max sum. I think we did. So this is just k, and then max sum will be equal to the max of whatever we have seen until then. Then I'm going to remove this and then increment the left, and then in the next iteration right will be incremented. Yeah, I think that's the okay. We got one wrong answer. Okay, I think we have to return the max sum. So we have to return the average, right? So I'll return max sum by k, because k is the number of elements in each subarray. Let's try and submit. Okay, so there are 121 cases that passed out of 128. Let's handle this edge cases. So the nums is given -1, and then the expected output is -1, but the output that we got here is 0. Okay, so what we can do here is we check if the length of the nums is equal to 1, then we'll return the number itself. Oh, there's another edge case that we didn't keep in mind. So this would be, let me just see what is the edge case that we missed. Okay, our output is 0, so we are returning max sum by k, right? So the max sum that we took is 0, so that is why it's not being changed. So that's why it's returning 0. I think oh yeah, so the max sum that we took here, we should be taking it as minus infinity rather than 0, so that all the negative values are also covered. I hope it works. Yes, it did. Yeah, this is how you solve the sliding window fixed sliding window questions. So just remember that your window is fixed and there is no left incrementing from if it's positioned to the right, or basically it won't shrink the window. It will just slide. It will the window is sliding and not shrinking anymore. Yeah, uh, that's it. Thank you.